Hi guys! So today I'm going to be showing you how to create 2 custom brushes in Procreate. Adding texture to your illustrations can really transform your work. They can look more finished and allow the illustration to really pop and stand out. I'll be showing you how to add texture and shade into this plant to transform it from flat shapes to the textured finished piece in a few simple steps. Let's get started. Here I have my illustration that I want to add texture to. These are the 2 brushes that I custom made in Procreate earlier today, one for shading and one for adding texture on afterwards. Before I show you how to make these brushes, I just want to show you how easy it is to add this to a flat illustration in just a few simple steps. So I have my illustration in 3 different parts: the leaves and then the plant pot, which is separated into 2 pieces. The reason for this is because when I add texture to them, I don't want to add texture to the whole illustration, just the chosen layer, so the shape that's in the layer. So I will show you how to do that now. So if you press on the layer that you want to select and you tap, and this will come up where it says rename, select, copy, and we want to select. So we have our layer selected and we will add a new layer on top of that. We go to the grey or whatever colour your illustration is and pull a few shades darker. You want to make sure that you don't pick a colour that's too dark and too contrasting, because you want to still be able to blend it in, but you can have a play around with that. I think that's quite a good shade to go for now. I make sure I'm on my shading brush and I will just start shading just really gently, blending in the texture. Making sure that where I want the shading to be, I'll press darker or harder, and where I want it to be lighter, then I press lighter. You can play around with the size of the brush as well. It's all about just blending it in quite happy with that. And then I repeat, so I click, select that layer, and then I press on a new layer and I repeat again. And what I really love about this brush is that kind of texture that you get, and you can kind of lean darker to get the texture out a little bit more. And again, I really like that. What you could also do is go a little bit darker, select, click on top, and go a little bit smaller so you can really add some darker shading to where you feel. So underneath. And that just really gives it a good contrast as well. So we can do that, maybe some highlights on this. So select, go above, and making sure that you select a lighter colour for a highlight now. So still on shading. And this will just make it pop a lot more. So there, as you can see. If you want to push your illustration even further, I would recommend maybe adding an extra texture on top of what you've already done. With my texture brush, I will select the layer I want to put texture on again, and with a darker shade, I very gently, with a bigger brush, go over the shape that I've selected. with a smaller brush, and you get this really nice grain effect. And again, just pushing darker where you want the shading to be. And as you can see, it's really effective and it's so simple to do. And we'll repeat on this side again. Slightly darker shades and gently brush over this shape now. And now I'll repeat the process but with the leaves. And there you have it, your first textured plant pot. So now I'm going to show you how to make both brushes. First we'll start with the texture, and we want to start a new brush. So if you click on the X in the right hand corner here, and at the top where it says Untitled Brush, we're going to name it Texture 2, just to get organised. So now that you've named it, you see that there's a shape source and a grain source. First of all, we click on Shape, and then click on Pro Library, which is in the middle. Scroll down and click on Charcoal Block. Now we go on to our grain, so we select grain, again Pro Library, and we're going to pick Bonobo. As you can see, the brush is a lot different to the texture brush that I made earlier. So what we'll do is we'll click on Texture 2, and you'll get some extra settings where you can start editing your chosen brush. So I want to put the stroke down to about 11%. So here with the spacing, so I've taken it down to about 11. And we want to start playing around with the grain as well. So I'll put the scale up to about 50%. And as you can see, the texture's got a lot more spread out. So that's what I want. So with the pencil, I'm quite happy with everything with that. So I'll go into general now. I quite like the opacity to be slightly down so it blends easier. So I put that down slightly. And with the general size, I want it to be about 150. And yeah, I think that's done. And we go back, and as you can see, we've got our grain brush now. And now we're going to do the same with the shading brush. So I'm going to click on a new brush. This time I'll title it Shading 2. We'll select the shape, Pro Library, and we're going to select graphite paper, which is here. And we'll select the grain, Pro Library, and this time grunge paper, where you can see grunge right here. Again, it's not the same as my shading, so we'll edit it in the settings. First, we'll start with a stroke and put the spacing down to 11.3. And we'll click on Shape at the bottom and put the rotation up to 4. Grain at the bottom and put the scale up to 50%. Pencil, opacity to the max. This way it helps it blend a lot more when the opacity is down, but you can also play around with this. The softness, we want that to be just up a little bit by 40. Again, that helps with the blending. And in general, we'll put the size limit max to 150. And there you have it. We go back and you can see it's the same. And again, you can play around with that. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but if you do want that kind of texture or that grunge look, then I would recommend using something quite similar to that. Making sure that when you pick your grain and your shape, that you're picking two textures with the shading. If you've enjoyed this video, then please hit subscribe on my YouTube channel, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of my illustration, then please feel free to follow me on my Instagram, and all my social media is listed in the description below. Bye!